Keri Barnum, Marketing Director for New Shelves Books, and today we're going to answer your questions live. Put those questions in the Q&A box, and in the meantime, I'm going to go to our emailed questions. One of the email questions that came in this week was about ISBNs, and if you should purchase your own ISBNs and where you should purchase them from. And this comes up a lot. If you are self-publishing your own book, you should absolutely be purchasing your ISBNs. You should be purchasing them yourself. Do not take the free ISBN from Ingram Spark, from KDP, from Draft to Digital. That gives them some control of your book, some control of the distribution, and we don't want that. If you're going through the time, attention, the detail to publish your own book, then it's really important that you own every right to it and every piece of it. And the way that you do that is you get your own ISBNs. And so an ISBN is the International Standard Book Number, which everyone can find your book by an ISBN, whether it be on Barnes & Noble or on Ingram Wholesale or on Amazon. So if you're in Canada, you can just apply for an ISBN and the government gives them to you, which is good to know for Canadians. But for Americans, we buy ours generally from a place called Bowker. And Bowker is the original place to get your ISBNs from. Their website is myidentifiers.com. That confuses some people because they're like, but it's not Bowker. So you would want to go and purchase those there. And I've had someone recently that said, okay, I can purchase my ISBNs from Bowker, but I ran across someone who says they're a publisher and I can purchase ISBNs directly from them, sometimes a little bit cheaper than they are from Bowker. And I can purchase these ISBNs from them, and then I won't be published under my own name. I would be published under this publisher's name. Isn't that a good thing? And my answer to that is generally no. Yes, some people have the stigma of self-publishing and they don't want to be published under their own name, and that's one reason that we do encourage our authors to go and name their publishing company, name their publishing house, and publish that way. I would never publish a book under Keri Ray Barnum or Barnum Industries or something like that. I would be picking a totally different name that's separate from myself, my book, my company, to publish under, because it would give me more of a professional appeal in the publishing industry. And what happens is if you're buying your ISBN from somebody else, and if they're offering it cheaper, it's probably because you can buy a huge bulk of ISBNs from Bowker. And of course, they're cheaper per ISBN that way. And then they're reselling them under a publisher name, which they try to sell to people as a way to have a publisher. But the thing with that is that no matter what they say, they're getting something out of it. People don't just sell their name and their ISBNs with nothing behind it. It makes no sense. It makes no business sense. So unless it's a friend or something like that, my thought is always, what are they getting? Are they getting some type of distribution royalty or right? They do, whether they say that you can upload that book yourself to KDP or not. If they own the ISBN and they ever wanted to call in the rights, then they could, because it is technically their ISBN. So I would never go to another entity and purchase my ISBNs. I would go myself to Bowker and get my ISBN so that I own them and I kept control. And yes, Jacqueline, your ISBN that you bought in USA will work on UK sites. It's a international standard. So ISBNs work all across the world in different countries. It's just a matter of where you purchase them. And some countries do offer them for free through the government. So that's all. I mean, if you can get it for free, why pay for it? But absolutely, it will work on other country sites. And let's see, is it worthwhile getting some firm to print the hardback copies of your books? How do you get an ROI on hardback copies? Gerald, that's a really good question. Years ago, hardback copies were really popular, mostly with libraries because they were sturdier. They weren't ripping as much, and it was just kind of the common thing that they looked for. However, in the last couple of years, technology has come such a long way that paperbacks that go into library systems now get this really cool laminate coating and film on them that makes them much sturdier. So what we're finding is a lot of libraries still will order a hardcover if they expect the book to be lent out a lot, because they do just stand up over time. However, if it's something that they're kind of testing out, we're finding that many of them will order paperback. They put this film on there, and that's how they do it. And again, keep in mind that if you're doing print on demand, paperback is much more cost effective and you will get a higher ROI usually. And that's rate of return, or rate of interest. But so for a hardcover, I think it depends on your market. If you're really trying to push to libraries, it may appeal there. If you have some type of book that is a collector's edition, that's when you would want to do it. If you have a book that you are specifically trying to get into the school or business markets, that's when you'd be looking at a hardcover. But again, hardcover when you're doing print on demand is much more costly. If you're doing an offset print, that's totally different. But in general, paperback is what most people are buying. We find that regular users want paperback. It's cheaper, it's lighter. So it depends on your market if it's worth getting for you. Okay, Victoria says, I've had a company format my books. How do I find out if they have any ownership over my books? What might that be? Victoria, if they're just formatting your books, generally that's a contract and they have no right over your books. It's just the formatting. Now, if it was a ghostwriter who wrote your books or something like that, you would want a contract in place. But for formatting, that's not something you should generally worry about. They're just formatting your books and you should be fine. You pay for a service, they do the service, but they are not creating the intellectual property of your book. All right, Robert says, let's see. Sorry, sometimes if they're longer, I like to read first. All right, what's happening with library sales? Well, Robert, the world as we know it has gone crazy. But what's happening with libraries and library sales is some are open, most are closed. We are finding that a lot of librarians are still active. They're still reading their emails. They're still actually looking for new books. They're taking this downtime to really read and immerse themselves in new authors. However, I don't believe many library systems will actively be ordering right now. I think what we're seeing is that library systems are looking at new authors. They're probably making a wish list, but all spending is pretty much on hold. So I wouldn't expect to see a lot of library sales happening right now unless maybe it was an ebook. But I do think that when things open up, whenever that may be, that will kind of I think we'll see a big increase depending on budgets. Again, there's so much up in the air in the world right now. It's really hard to tell. And yes, Nancy, you're asking over in the chat, the website again for an ISBN. It is Bowker, Bowker is the company, and you purchase from myidentifiers.com. And I will drop that right in the chat box so that you have it. All right. Sonia. Sonia is asking, what is the secret sauce to writing Amazon copy? At least half of my nonfiction blurbs get banned and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Some are even combination of copy from ads that have been approved. Well, Sonia, I think what we're seeing, Amazon is really trying to, they're almost like the digital world, like social media. They're trying to stay within those return on investment. Thank you, Larry. I had a total, Sonia, I will go back to you, bunny trail here, but Larry's correcting me. ROI is not rate of interest. Thank you. I had a total blonde moment. It is return on investment, and I know that, but again, blanking out, so thank you. All right. And if you didn't get the chat message, guys, again, I don't know. I tried again. Let's try. myidentifiers.com. There we go. All right. But as far as Amazon, we are seeing them go with social media trends as far as they are being very careful with your actual information in the description. They are going with things like they want to make sure that there's no offensive language, there's nothing that could be considered a racial slur. They are being very careful even about religion, anything having to do with health. They want to make sure that they will not in any way be they will in no way be somehow connected with something that their company doesn't stand for or could get in trouble with. So that's what we're finding there. As far as Amazon copy, I think it's important that you represent your book, but keep in mind that Amazon is to the end user. It is like you're sitting down with someone telling them about your book and then giving a direct plea for why they should buy it. So I think it's very important that we treat it like that. Don't treat it in generalities. If you are looking for something, a book that can tell you all about natural health and how you and your family can benefit, this is the book for you. And I think that it's very important that we, again, watch our language, look at the Amazon rules and regulations. They are constantly changing. And then it does take a little bit of hit and miss, I'm afraid. But I like to change up my Amazon copy at least once every month or two. That keeps it fresh. It keeps your keywords up. It keeps your SEO up. So it's important that you do play with that from time to time. All right, Pamela's asking about a virtual book signing event. Pamela, just to clarify, is this a virtual book signing event where you're literally signing books and mailing them out, or is this a virtual book tour? Let me know so that way I can answer appropriately. All right. Anita wants to know, is it worth signing up with Ingram Spark if my books are already on KDP? If so, what control do I keep and give up? Absolutely. Anita, if you have books up on KDP, that's fantastic. However, that is really for the Amazon market. If you would like to go wide and you would like to sell your book into libraries and to bookstores, then you really need your book available for wholesale. Some people will do that through KDP expanded distribution. However, when you do that, Amazon gets a cut and they have the control. So they get to control what your discount is. They get a cut of your profits, that kind of thing. So if you own your ISBN, you want to upload your book, your paperback, your hardcover. I'm sorry, not hardcover because KDP doesn't do that, but your paperback, your ebook directly to KDP for Amazon sales. You will make a higher royalty there. But then you want to take the same exact files, the same book, the same ISBN, and go sign up for Ingram Spark and upload your book there. If you are aiming for bookstore sales, you want to put your discount at 55%. That means that the bookstore will get a 40% discount, and that is what they need to sell your book to make a profit. If you list your book for less than 55% discount, they most likely will not consider your book. There's not enough profit margin for them. So it is really so important that you use both of them for the best sales option. And if you're doing KDP expanded distribution and you're going through Amazon, bookstores can tell that. When you look up, I mean, there are some telltale signs for someone who knows where to look that a book is coming from KDP rather than straight from the publisher. And what happens is that when you do that, bookstores don't like it. I mean, bookstores are in direct competition with KDP, so, and with Amazon. So if they can see that a bookstore is selling a book, or I'm sorry, if an author is selling a book and it's coming from Amazon, they most likely will not buy, number one, because the discount isn't correct, and number two, because they don't in any way want to give money to Amazon, their competitor. Yes, thank you, Linnea. I appreciate that. All right. How would you get Barnes& and Noble to put your book on display and do virtual book signings also? Well, it depends on which Barnes& and Noble. If you have a local Barnes& and Noble, sometimes you can reach out to them and ask if they would do an author event. If they do that, sometimes they do local author events where they have anywhere from 4 to 15 local authors come. They bring their books. It's all in consignment usually. You bring your own books, you sell it, and it's a way for them to support the community and bring in the community. If you are a big name, obviously Barnes and Noble wants you to come because they expect you to draw a crowd. However, if you are not a big name, you have a new book, and you want Barnes and Noble to do a big display, and you don't have proven sales, I'm afraid you will pay for that privilege, and you will pay thousands. It would be very, very expensive because that's how they make part of their money. We find it's usually best if you can prove sales or you can prove an audience, reaching out individually to different regions or different stores and saying, I know that I have an audience in your area. I'm selling this number of books. I would like to have a event in your store where I can actually bring a crowd to you and boost your sales. And that tends to work very well for us. And I would reach out again, very small like that. If you just go big and say, Barnes and Noble, I want you to not only carry my book, but I want you to, display it and do signings and tours, that's going to be a much bigger item that unless you have, again, proven sales, celebrities, something like that, you probably will not get. With bookstores closed, are owners looking at marketing materials? That's a really good question, Pat. Yes, in some instances. What we're finding is a lot of bookstores. Now, I'm not necessarily talking huge bookstores. Huge bookstores have furloughed quite a few employees. I think that some of them will still be catching up. They'll still be looking. But if we were talking about independent bookstores, generally those are, they're smaller. They're owned businesses by community members, and those people in many cases are still working. I think it's amazing. There are bookstores that are doing curbside delivery, they're doing drop-offs, there's so much going on. And what I think is happening is for these people who are smaller bookstores, they are still checking their emails. They are still probably looking at marketing materials. Again, they may not be purchasing right now, but they actually have more downtime than they have in a long time. And so a lot of them will continue to look at marketing materials to make a wish list and possibly buy once things open back up. It's just so uncertain right now that it's hard to tell not if they'll be looking at your materials, but how much it will matter and if they'll be saving them for later. I do think, though, that we need to be very cautious as we reach out to bookstores, keeping in mind that they are probably, the buyers and owners are probably stressed. They are probably very much, they're in just a stressful time. I think we need to be careful as we're asking them to buy our books, that we do it with grace, that we share information, but tread lightly there. All right, what are some good resources to print a book for a cheaper price? What print brokers do you recommend? What about overseas? Are the overseas good quality? So generally, Stephen, that's a couple point question. Offset print will always be cheaper than print on demand, but you are paying for quantity. You are going and getting, 5,000 copies of your book opposed to print on demand where they're printing as the orders come in. And so what we see is that, yes, price is cheaper, especially if you go overseas. Quality is generally good if you go from overseas, and off print is usually better quality than print on demand. However, again, you're ordering a huge amount, so you have to be ready to stock those copies and either get a distributor who will get your book into all of the wholesalers, or you have to be pushing those books yourself through your own website, that kind of thing. And that is where you see people end up with hundreds and hundreds of copies of their books sitting in their garage that are 20 years old. So you have to be super careful with that. And then as far as overseas, again, if you know you're going to have a large sale, if you know that you will push these books and you choose to order overseas, prices are cheaper, the quality is good. However, you will wait, especially with tariffs and all of the shipping processes. It can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months to get copies of your book. Sometimes they will come sooner, but expect much more delays. You can also do offset print in the USA, and great quality. There are so many good printers depending on what area you're in. I would try to go closer to home rather than not with most cases, at least within your region. And so there are some great print options. It will be a little bit more expensive than going overseas. However, you will probably get them much quicker. Maybe not right now, obviously, with what's going on with this pandemic and everything, but yes. All right. I was told by my book coach, if you introduce your book in the last 3 months of the year, you can make your copyright date 2021 rather than 2020. I delayed my book due to the virus and am thinking fall of January 2021 at the latest, now leaning toward October and November. Your thoughts on making the date 2021? Here is the thing with that, Lori. Copyright date can be a little bit flexible. However, your published date is not. And people will look at your published date much more often than your copyright date. So if you release your book in October, November, you will have a 2020 book. People will look at that release date, they will look at that publication date. And that means that 2 months later, your book it's considered old. I think that if you have a reason to release around that time, if it is holiday themed, if it is something like that, if you have a reason to push that, then go for it. I mean, if you think the sales are there. However, keep in mind that if you are trying to reach out to bookstores, if you are hoping to get a lot of attention on your book around the holidays, that is the busiest season for book buyers. They will not want you in their stores asking to do events. They will not want a lot of back and forth. They're busy. They're usually slammed. So I think you have to be very strategic about if there's a reason to go ahead and publish your book towards the tail end of the year. And if not, would it do better? Would you get more attention and more lift in the beginning of 2021? All right, and Pamela, going back to your question about virtual book signing events, you're looking for ideas and you heard of virtual book signing events, but don't know what that is. What are the possibilities? So if you're just looking into it, I think what you're probably looking more at is not book signing event, but a book tour event. And those can be very popular, and that is where you either go with a book tour company or book blogging company, or you set it up yourself, and you actually set up this tour of where bloggers will feature your book every day for a week or 2 weeks, depending on what you're setting up. And they will do reviews, they may do a guest post, they will do different things like that. And so it's a good way to boost your SEO, to get your name out there. It's a good way to build some buzz about your book. And that's absolutely, we have used R&R book tours several times, and they are fantastic. Shannon over there. There is Giselle over, I'm forgetting her name. I know on our website we do have a whole list of book tour companies and blog companies that we've used. Giselle is with Expresso Tours. It's XPRESSO Tours, and they are fantastic as well. So there's lots of companies out there that do that, and it can help build some buzz, especially in a time when everyone's staying home. Yes, thank you, Linda. We do a replay of all our sessions and they go up on YouTube. Okay, where does a book get distributed if you submit it to draft to digital? If you submit your ebook to draft to digital, you get to choose where the distribution goes, but generally you're going to go out to retailers like Barnes & Noble, Apple, Kobo. You can also get into library systems like Overdrive. Baker and Taylor works with draft to digital. There's a whole list of them, and you can choose where you want to go. Generally, we pick everywhere but Amazon, and that's how you get wide distribution. Just know that if you upload your book to draft to digital, your book cannot be in Kindle Select. Kindle Select is a program where your book is only listed on Amazon. It goes into Kindle Unlimited, so it's exclusive, and you cannot do that and also do draft to digital. So just make sure that you are in the right programs for you. Kindle Select is amazing for some fiction genres, some mysteries, romance, things like that. There's a lot of lift there. However, if you have a nonfiction book or something that you want wide distribution, that's when you would go to draft to digital. All right. If you don't do expanded distribution, which platform should you definitely upload your book to directly? Can you upload to Apple Books if you don't own a Mac? Yes, Apple Books, you don't need a Mac to get into Apple. However, again, what we recommend is that if you have an ebook, you upload the ebook directly to KDP. And then you also, if you're not doing Kindle Select, go to Draft to Digital. It's DRAFT, the number 2, digital, DIGITAL.com. And at Draft to Digital, you thank you, Jim. Jim's put it in the chat box for us. And then you upload your book there. It's, again, you just use your EPUB file and you upload it there, and that gets you into Apple, Kobo, Barnes & Noble. For your print book, we recommend that you do KDP for print book distribution directly to Amazon, and then you take your print book file and you go to Ingram Spark and you upload your book there for print on demand to Ingram Wholesale, which also will get you in Barnes & Noble. They will get you on Walmart.com, pretty much everywhere books are sold. That is the relationship that they have. Ingram Spark and Ingram Wholesale are 2 separate companies, but they're owned by the same family, and they work in concert to help self-published authors and indie authors use print-on-demand model for their books to get their books into the wholesale market, to actually get into some of the bigger retailers. If we are talking about ebooks, Anita has asked if draft to digital is preferred over Ingram Spark. And my answer for that is, if we are talking ebook specific, I do prefer draft to digital. I think they're both great platforms. However, draft to digital will do price changes very, very quickly. You can set promo dates. And I find it to be a little bit more user-friendly for the ebook. Ingram Spark, they update their prices once a week. It can take a little bit longer. So it's not a bad platform. It will get you where you need to go. But I think draft to digital is a little bit quicker and easier to use. So for ebook, that is where I go. All right, guys, we had some questions that came in over email, so I want to go over to those. We had one question from Frank. And Frank had asked, he wrote a book, or is writing a book, that is based off of an article that was originally published in a magazine. And so this article was published in a magazine. This person, I believe, is now deceased who wrote it. But Frank has, with the family's permission, gone on to write a book that is based off of the magazine article. And he has asked if there is any type of royalty involved that he should be expecting to pay to the family if it goes to TV, and if he actually publishes the book. And that's a really hard question, Frank, because it depends. It's a case-by-case basis. I know you said you had reached out to some different agents and things and you hadn't gotten a straight answer. And I think the reason why you haven't gotten a straight answer is because there isn't one. It will depend, really, it will depend on your relationship with the family, what they're willing to agree to, what they have signed over. I would definitely get some legal counsel as far as getting some type of contract in order, making sure that you're protected when you do this. I think it would certainly be a nice, thoughtful gesture to offer them a royalty, a modest royalty if anything happened, but that will be really a basis for you and the family, the copyright owners of the original article, to figure out. And I don't think there's not a huge amount of precedence for that. I mean, certainly there's some things that are spin-offs or fan fiction, that kind of thing. And it's not really a ghostwriting because you've written an entire book by yourself, but you're publishing under your name with credit. So I think you're not getting a straight answer because there isn't really one. Again, I think it's up to the family, it's up to you, but there are certainly kind intentions and thoughts that you can put into a royalty, but absolutely get some legal counsel to make sure that whatever is decided, whatever arrangement is put in place, that it is actually done legally, which protects you and protects the family and protects the work. All right. Yes. Is there an advantage to Ingram Spark over expanded distribution? Absolutely. We touched on this earlier. Expanded distribution gives Amazon the control of your distribution. They are the one who set the discount for Ingram Wholesale. They also are taking a cut of profits. So I absolutely would say if you own your ISBN, upload to KDP just for Amazon, and then do expanded distribution as well. Oh, I'm sorry, not expand distribution. Do Ingram Spark as well. Gina's saying, I self-published my book, which now I've heard is referred to as hybrid. I did sign a contract, but was assured that I am the owner of my manuscript and the info on my website. For many reasons, I lost trust in the company and did not renew my website with them. I've tried for months to get my website info, but they keep sending it in a way I cannot open. What should I do? Jean, I think that's more of a legal matter. I do think depending on if you self-published with your own ISBN or if you self-published under someone else's name, their ISBN, that is when it gets a little sticky. If you did the copyright, if you wrote the book and you did the copyright, then you own that. And if your contract states that you are able to go on and publish elsewhere, sure. But if you published under their company name, if you use their ISBN, they're the ones who, your own ISBN. Did you also upload your own book, let's say to KDP and Ingram Spark, Jean? Okay. Let me know that, because again, so you didn't. Okay. Did you purchase the ISBN from them, or did you purchase the ISBN from Bowker? Because if you purchased it from them, then they still retain some control. It still is going up under their accounts. It's going up under them. And so what I'd recommend is that if you'd like to step away from them, is to consider publishing a second edition. If you want to make any changes, any updates, absolutely do that, but do a new edition, new ISBN under your own name, your own account. Get that ISBN from Bowker. And Jean, I know you said from them, sadly, and many authors don't. I mean, it's one of those things that seems so easy and appealing that a lot of authors say, of course, I'll just buy it from them. It'll be easier. I'll get their name. But when you run into that, I say, go get your own ISBN, do a second edition, and move on and move up. I think that's the best that you can do. A lot of these places, they work out for some people. For some people who just want a book out there, it's fantastic. But for people who really want to work with their book and market their book, and they want a long-term career as an author, these hybrid publishers don't really work for some people. All right, I'm going to go over to my next email question. Let's see if I can find it. All right. This one came from Kim. I have two questions. I wrote a book trilogy and used the first chapter from a contest I entered a long time ago. I changed the chapter from an art rating to a family rating. I don't know where to look if I can use the chapter, but I figured since I wrote it, it's mine. Maybe it isn't. Don't know. What do you think? So if you wrote something and you submitted it to a contest, you need to go back to that contest. You need to go look at those rules and see what you agreed to when you signed up for it. Whenever you are submitting your book for something, you should read the fine print. You should read the rules. Are you allowed to submit it elsewhere? Do you retain content? Are they available to publish your content if you submit? That's the kind of thing. Unfortunately, we can't answer that for you because we don't know the rules that were there. So you really need to go back to that and find out and go to the company that you submitted with to answer that question, Kim. The second question is, I copyrighted a historical fiction book of mine, but used a poem from Edgar Allan Poe. It's way older than 50 years and I see it everywhere. I quoted it and gave credit to him. Should I have not done this? So the general rule of thumb, again, do your research for your book, but the general rule of thumb is that you can quote something that it was published and written before 1923. And Poe, I believe, died in 1850s, 1858 or 9. So if that's the case, then absolutely you can use it. Make sure that you quote it, do your due diligence. Now, if you were asking if you could quote, let's say, a poem from a modern day poet, someone who published their book last year, the answer would be not without permission. Absolutely, if it is something current, if it's something before 1923, even the Bible, new versions of the Bible, you need to get permissions. You need to go through the steps, especially if you're doing whole whole passages, whole poems, whole song lyrics. The same thing. You need to make sure that you get written permission to cover yourself, because what you don't want is to have to pull your book or to get sued for copyright infringement. There are a lot of rules, and you should familiarize yourself with those, but there are rules as far as can you quote Oprah in your book? If it's a small little snippet and you know she said it, she did say it on an interview or it was published, absolutely, a small little snippet you can post, make sure you give credit. However, you cannot use that quote in your title without permission. You cannot do, if you were doing a whole book of Oprah quotes, you would need permission, because that's enough of her original content and wording that you would need permission to do that. So I think anytime you're quoting something in a book, make sure that you look into it, you do your due diligence to make sure that you're covering all the bases and that you're not infringing on anyone else's copyright. However, with Edgar Allan Poe, again, he published and he passed so long ago that you should be fine. All right, Sue, you've got a comment over here. Let me see. I have the rights to sell my hybrid published print book on my website, and I have the copyrights. I didn't grant rights for them to put up the Kindle version. I have the right to sell the PDF, the EPUB, and the movie versions from my website. That's fantastic. If you have the rights to sell it, then go for it. I think everyone's contracts are different. I mean, it depends on what you personally agreed to, what you're set up with. Yes, I mean, if you are looking to convert over and put your own ISBN, it's a new edition. If it's a new ISBN for the same format, meaning if it's a paperback and you get a new ISBN for the same paperback, it's a new edition, not a revised edition, but a new edition. So there are some changes that need to go in there. And are there people to easily upload the preferred version to the devices? Yes. So when people are looking for different versions. They're looking for either, some people exclusively read on their Kindle, which is a Mobi, and some people exclusively read on Apple, and that is an EPUB. So you do need different versions of your ebook. You should have the PDF, you should have the EPUB version and the Mobi version, and those go up on different platforms. All right, one final question that we came in through email. Let's see. All right, this one's from Larry. Larry is saying that he's been studying various publishing options for some time and watched them evolve in name. He is speaking directly to the best author, Mark Malatesta, and asking if a writing coach is necessary. Basically, the question, I believe, Larry, is asking, do you need a writing coach to have a successful writing career? And do you need an agent and a traditional publisher? Not necessarily. There are self-published authors who have done it beautifully on their own. It does depend on the genre. It does depend on your willingness and ability to budget and market and get yourself out there. It also depends on how you want to publish? Do you want to retain rights? Is this your sole job? There are certainly people, again, who have self-published, and what happens sometimes is they will self-publish, they will be really popular, and then a publishing company, a traditional publisher, will pick them up and make them an offer for future books because they see that it's profitable. There are whole teams at traditional publishers who are looking for self-published books that they think they can refine and make into a really popular author that would be a moneymaker. However, if your intention is to go with a traditional publisher, you need an agent. Most traditional publishers do not even accept manuscripts from authors directly anymore. The big publishing houses require that an agent send them the manuscript, because an agent, as we know from when we talked with Paula Munet a couple of months ago, an agent is kind of the gate for a publisher. They get so many manuscripts and they filter through and they find the ones that they really believe in and really think that there is something there, and then they are pitching them to the publisher. And this publishers like that because it cuts down on their work. It cuts down on the millions of manuscripts that they must get sent every year, and kind of trickles in the best of the best. So if you are looking to get traditionally published, you absolutely positively need an agent. And that's the first step. You start pitching to agents. Once you get an agent, your agent then, who is an expert in this field, is going to pitch you to publishers. As far as a writing coach, do you absolutely positively need one? I think that depends on you. I think a writing coach can be fantastic in the sense that they can help guide you and direct you. They can help hone you. And certainly if they have connections with agents that they can present you to, that's helpful. However, I have seen authors who have they've done it on their own. They've written and they have pitched to agents and they've gotten picked up. So I think it depends on your time, your drive, and your ability. If you're one who's going to get in there and you are going to research and do your due diligence and get on webinars and find out what's trending and what's popular and how to do different things, I think you can do it without a writing coach. But as anything in life, I can go to the gym 5 times a week and have a 6-pack of abs, but am I much more likely to do it if I've got a personal trainer or a coach? Yeah, probably. So I think it depends on you personally whether or not that's a good fit. All right. Lynn is saying, I discovered someone printed up my paperback in Syria and is selling it. Others have hacked Kindle and are selling or giving away a PDF of my book. If you Google my name or topic, what can I do? I think the first thing you need to do is go to the places that are producing it or selling it, the website it's on, and you need to contact them with a cease and desist. Lynn, I think also that's a legal question. Again, that's where you need to get some legal counsel. Unfortunately, that's not me, but I do think that that is something that you need to take steps to. If you've got the copyright on it, then absolutely they are out of bounds. If you are having certain things hacked, I don't know if you mean your accounts are being hacked or they're just taking your files and pirating your files. If so, again, go to wherever you are finding these files posted and then go in and contact those people and get that rolling. If it's your accounts being hacked, then obviously make sure that you get those passwords changed and all of that. Sue's asking, do I want to put an ISBN on the Mobi EPUB and PDF versions? All you need to do, Sue, is that you have a ISBN per format. Your ebook, which is Mobi and EPUB, your ebook needs one ISBN, and that can transfer on all websites. Your print version, if you have paperback, that is one ISBN. That can go up on KDP, that can go up on Ingram SPARC, and so forth. If you have a hardcover, you need a separate ISBN for that. And if you have a audiobook, you need a separate ISBN for that. But you do not need separate ISBNs for like EPUB and then a new one for a Mobi. Just one for your ebook. All right. My book is now 3 years old. I had unexpected heart surgery 18 months ago, which really delayed my progress in marketing. I feel like I'm starting all over again. Jean, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you're healing well and your health is doing well. But I think you can find something, find a current way to spin your book. If you're in nonfiction, find current news to tie your book to, even if it is 3 years old. Find something, if it's historical fiction even, find something that is somehow connected to modern news, which will then connect it, it will boost it in a current way, even if it is a couple years old. And that's what I definitely recommend. And of course, if you do have new content, if you have a reason to do a second edition, then that's something to consider as well. All right, and Sue says, sorry, it's in the chat feed, so I'm going to scroll down on the right here. Okay. All right, about a deceased author. So my co-author passed away, so can I continue finishing the 3-book series by making a reference to him inside the book that this was based on work he previously did and remove his name from the cover? Because that is intellectual property, again, legal counsel, but I do believe that that would fall under his estate. So I think that you would need to work with permission of the family and the person handling his estate. Absolutely get legal counsel to move forward with that, especially if it is a book series that is getting a lot of sales and attention. You want to make sure that you cover yourself. You cannot just take their name off of the series and go forth. It was a joint venture, so you want to make sure to do that properly. All right, we got through all of our questions. I am just going to hop over to Facebook and make sure that we don't have any questions there. But if you do, we've got about 10 more minutes. So if you have any more questions that you would like to have answered, drop them in the Q&A. And I will get, I will get Facebook Live up just to make sure we don't have any questions there. All right. Let's see. Oh, so Sharon on Facebook is asking, where can you watch with the rest of the audience? Sharon, if you're still watching, or for anyone on Facebook who is wondering, we do Free Advice Friday every single Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and this is run on Zoom. So while you can watch on Facebook, if you want to be actively asking questions and involved, the best place to go is on Zoom. You can sign up for Zoom notifications right on our website. If you go to newshelves.com, there's a Free Advice Friday link, and you can sign up so that you get the weekly reminders, you get the replay links, and so forth. So absolutely do that. And if you have questions that you would like to send in and have us answer, because you're not available at 10 a.m. Eastern, that kind of thing, you can send them in to info, I-N-F-O, at newshelves.com. All right. Jean is asking, what is the difference between a second edition and a new edition? Well, Jean, any new edition is a new edition. It could be a second edition, a third edition, a fourth edition. If it is the newest edition or it's a newly released edition, it's a new edition. I think what's more important is knowing the difference between a second edition and a second or third revised edition. A revised edition must have revised content. You are looking for 20 to 40% new content, and that can be new cover, it can be updated studies if you have a nonfiction book. It's not little proof errors. You would actually be adding content, removing content, changing content to call it a revised edition. So a second edition, not that big of a thing. It's just, you know, putting a new face on it, basically. That happens a lot when it changes from publisher to publisher, or rights get changed for that. But if it's got a brand new cover and you added 5 chapters and all of the studies in your nonfiction book have been updated, that's a revised edition. And that lets people know that if they're purchasing, even if they have purchased the older version of the book, if it's a revised edition, they know that there's new content for them there. So certainly we see it in textbooks all the time, where we'll have textbooks that are from I don't know, 1980, and it's still the same title, but it's a revised edition. Well, because we know that in schooling and in life, textbooks are constantly being updated and changed with current information. So that is, you would want the newest edition. We don't want to study medicine from a 1980 textbook when there's a new edition from 2020, because some of our practices have changed just a little bit. All right. Bob is asking, I decided to make lemonade, see, out of lemons with all my canceled book events and approach a bookstore about doing a Facebook Live event in time for Father's Day shopping. Any chance, experience, or opinion on them? My expectations are low and they usually are already for book events. Bob, number one, way to hustle. I love that. I think it can go really well. I think the important thing is that you market it like you would an event. If you are doing a live, make sure that you're telling your audience, you're telling people, consider maybe even posting something on your author page and boosting it. That's where you pay for advertising on Facebook or on other social media platforms. So I would consider actually boosting that and telling people, hey, come to this. I'm doing a Facebook Live. Make sure you're following me because it'll show up. And I'd give them probably some incentive. Everyone who's there will have a chance, we'll be doing a live giveaway for a signed book, or give them something that will draw them in. And then make sure that when you're doing that, again, that you're posting, that you're telling people about it. I think what people don't realize with some of these author events is not that people don't care, is that half the time people don't know. People want to support you, especially if it's something online where they can easily, click a like, click a heart, whatever it is. People are generally willing to help and to support, but they don't always know how. So if you simply say, I am doing this event on, on Saturday at 10 a.m., it would mean so much to me if you just click a like and share it. That widens and broadens my audience. I would support the love so much. And you'd be surprised by how many people do it. But you have to tell them, and you have to tell them a couple times. You can't tell them once, 2 weeks ahead of time and expect them to remember. Tell them, remind them, consider some boosted posts. And I think that it's also important that if you're doing a live, try to involve your audience. Ask them questions, read the comments, or have someone else read the comments and answer them. That's really where you'll get a lot of your lift, is making sure that you involve people and that they have a reason to come and interact with you. So good luck with that. Again, I think that's a great idea. Is there an easy way to upload books that are on KDP to Ingram Sparks? These books had formerly been in KDP expanded distribution. Anita, if you are trying to get your books from expanded distribution to Ingram Spark, you actually need a transfer. So what you would do is you would remove your books from KDP expanded distribution, which is telling them, they don't have the right anymore. Please remove my books from your account. And then you sign up for an Ingram Spark account and you fill out a transfer addendum. This is saying, I own the right to this book. I own the ISBN. And previously I'd given KDP permission to upload my book to their account. I would like to transfer that to my account. It will take some weeks. I've seen it go really quickly at like 2 weeks, and I've seen it go really slow at like 6 weeks. I'm sure it depends on how busy they are. But absolutely, you do a transfer addendum. You don't have to upload the files because KDP has already done that, but you do need to make sure that you do that transfer addendum. You send it into Ingram Spark, and then the book will, when the transfer is complete, the book will just show up in your home page where all your books are listed, and then you will have the right to go ahead and change the discount and all of that kind of thing. You will then own the book in your own Ingram Spark account. So it's not too hard, but it doesn't even take you a lot of time. It takes quite a bit of time sometimes to get those transferred over, though. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Kari Barnum. I am the marketing director for New Shelves Books. Thank you for joining me. It has been fun. I believe Amy will be back next week. If you have questions, please feel free to email them into us. We do try to answer those or join us live. Again, you can sign up for our Zoom reminders if you just go to newshelves.com and you sign up for Free Advice Friday. We love to have you join us. I hope you have a safe and healthy week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.